Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about the trailer that just came out for the 6th and final season of Supergirl. If you haven't seen it already, I'll include a link to it in the description down below. But kind of a lot of really interesting things. I thought it was fascinating that what they're setting up for the trailer is the final showdown. It's like Team Supergirl versus Lex. And I thought that was so interesting because typically the trailers usually are what happens like the first half of the season, maybe like the first couple episodes or something, which I'm like, because I don't see that being the whole arc of the final season. Maybe it is, but it was interesting. First and foremost, the fact is we have Lex getting superpowers. I thought that was interesting. I mean, it kind of comes full circle because that's always, I mean, obviously it depends on the continuity, but I think at the core, it's always the jealousy over Superman being, you know, this powerful being. And obviously in this case, it's Superman and Supergirl. So it's like there's these powerful beings being these so-called protectors of Earth. It's like we don't need aliens to protect Earth. He wants to, because obviously because of Crisis, he's already seen as like, oh my God, Earth's like great hero. He's always like, oh, everyone thinks, you know, the best of Lex, obviously in this continuity. And obviously put himself in a much better light post-Crisis and everything. But now it's like, oh, I've got the powers to match it too. Not only I'll be loved and, you know, and everyone's going to love me and I'm going to be so amazing and just like, I'm going to right this world by being the human hero that's going to, you know, save the day. Which obviously there's a whole conversation of absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And I think that's going to be the interesting aspect to this is like now that he's got these powers and everything, which isn't the first time that this has happened, but obviously like it seems like this circumstance might be a little bit more permanent. But I think, well, because at one point we see he has a ring, so I don't know whether it's like, whether they infused, kind of did like almost like a Metallo thing where it's like he's got kryptonite infused powers or something like that. I don't know if that's what it always saw was like his mom put in a machine and all of a sudden like he has like a ring or whatever and he shoots out like the L family crest in the wall and stuff like that. But I think that's going to be the interesting thing because power comes down to the person. So like we know what Lex's personality is, and I think eventually when it comes down to it, his personality is going to like no matter how powerful he is, how much of a great reputation he has, like when his true nature reveals itself, it's all going to come crumbling down because I think that's going to be his undoing. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he's going to try and paint Supergirl in a terrible light. Maybe this is going to be more out front, like, oh, Supergirl's not the hero you think she is, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe it's just simply going to be a thing of behind the scenes of like, oh yeah, like I'm going to keep up my public appearances, but I'm going to kill Supergirl behind the scenes. But since I brought it up earlier, I thought it was interesting too because it's like, okay, like, to my recollection, I could be mistaken, but the Leviathan thing was never handled. Like obviously the other people part of Leviathan, sure, but not Leviathan themselves, if I remember correctly. So that's still something that has to be contended with. So I don't know if that's going to be like the later part of the season or whether they're going to coincide that. Like I said, do correct me if I'm wrong. I just don't remember. I think that was still left open. So not unless that's something that gets wrapped up earlier in the season and the Lex thing becomes the majority of the season. Because not only are they wrapping up the story of like what they're creating for season 6, but also finishing up where season 5 ended up being left off because I think season 5 had to stop at episode 19 if I remember correctly. But so yeah, like finishing up the storyline of season 5, so that might get dealt with early on, and maybe this Lex thing gets the rest of the show. Because from the last time I checked up, and this was when it was originally announced that the show was going to be 20 episodes. So once again, that's cool because most shows when they're announced for their final season rarely get a lengthier final season. There have been a few exceptions, but I feel like it's just far and few in between of when it actually happens. So what I also thought was interesting too, I was like, wait, your mom is helping you? I was like, really? And I'm like, really? Lillian, you're helping him? The same son that wanted to kill you? Lena told you like, oh, he's going to come to this prison and kill you. But then I was like, right, that was like season 4 when that came about. And it's like, right, that was pre-Crisis. So they're on different terms now and stuff like that. Regardless, I'm interested to see like, whether anything becomes of that, whether like, even though things have changed, I'm wondering, like, he's still kind of got the mother issues that he does. So I'm wondering, is that going to rear its ugly head now that he has powers? Maybe he decides like, oh, like, now I know, when his mom becomes inconvenient for him, he'll get rid of her. Because typically what he does with people when they stop being of use to him, he gets rid of them. So, some other interesting things to think about, because we saw it in a trailer I thought was neat, was, well, really quickly, the line from Lex where he's like, oh, I'm going to do what the Anti-Monitor couldn't do, which that's the messed up thing. It's like, I guess for him, it's like, rather than just being the hero of one planet, I'm assuming not just every planet, I'm sure he's going to go multiverse with this, like, oh, I'm going to be the hero of every planet, which is so interesting because, like, you shoehorned your way into the whole Crisis situation. Hell, it was the end of all existence and you still found a way to make it about you and try to be power hungry about it. So that's what's that's just interesting for like in many different regards, him getting powers and also like him kind of wanting that again, like it all still kind of comes full circle. It's actually interesting because it's almost like this acts as more of a, you know, at least, and I think this is kind of tail ending at Supergirl, like this is actually kind of putting an epilogue a little bit to Crisis to a certain extent. I mean, obviously the rest of season 5 was kind of a little bit of an epilogue to like Crisis as well, but I think this is gonna tail end that in certain regards as well. So, but another thing I noticed is we had, you know, Brainy in it. So it's like, okay, things work out to some extent now. Now, where we left him off, Brainy wasn't in a good situation because Lex left him in a very terrible situation. But it seemed like him and Neil were on better terms. So I'm glad. Like, hopefully that kind of resolves itself because it's like they're too damn cute together. And, you know, considering like he had to like keep everyone at a distance because he thought he was doing a greater good because Leviathan was too much of a threat, but obviously not realizing the threat that Lex Luthor will become. So, you know, that's always the kind of short-sighted and stuff, like, oh, let's work with this bad guy to take out this other bad guy because this bad guy's a threat. But it's like, who's to say this threat doesn't become a bigger threat, which Lex eventually does, always does. It's, you know, you can't trust him to always just, you know, have everyone's best interest at heart. He always had his best interest at heart. So I'm curious to see what they do with Kara's story this season. Obviously, like her and Lena, obviously where we left off with season 5, they're finally on the same page again together, and I'm glad to see that friendship restored. Granted, there's still going to probably be some rocky roads ahead, but I think they squashed a lot of that. There's still a lot of, I think, some underlying issues that will probably be dealt with even more, but I think where they are right now, things are good. So to see them back on the same side again, and obviously, you know, where Kara's story takes her, you know, where, you know, because we didn't get too much of just like everything that's happening with Kara this season. It's mainly just focused on, hey, we're taking down Lex, but we don't know what else is going on in Kara's life as she's bouncing, you know, stuff as Kara, stuff as Supergirl, you know, where all that will end up. You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. You know, I'm sad to see Supergirl end, but I'm also excited to see how it all ends up playing out, you know, because obviously, once again, it's the Arrowverse. So even when this story ends, there's still a lot from this continuity. I mean, especially considering this is post-crisis. So everything is, well, most of everything is on the same Earth. So we could always pull from this at any point in time. I'm also curious to see, like, you know, where things kind of stand with the other shows, and once again, everything being on the same Earth. Is there, what, you know, references and pulls are we going to get this season on Supergirl? So, yeah, like I said, it's a small trailer. So like I said, I think everything's mainly from like the first few episodes. So there's still a lot we're going, at least I'm going into the season not really knowing where things will go and what to kind of expect. I don't see them doing a thing of like, you know, Kara dying at the end of this. They could pull that off. I mean, because that's the hero thing, to sacrifice yourself. I mean, look at Oliver. I mean, and it wouldn't be the first time Kara's sacrificed herself. I mean, Elseworlds. I mean, her and Barry sacrificed himself, and Oliver sacrificed himself to save both of them, because it's like the world needs both of you. The world is better off with both of you in it. What you do, what you inspire people, you bring hope, you know? So hopefully it won't come down to a situation of her having to sacrifice herself, because she is such this beacon of hope for so many people. So I'm really interested to see, you know, where Kara's story takes her in this final season. Obviously, these are just some of my thoughts about what we saw in the trailer. I'd love to get to know yours in the comments down below. What are some things you want to see? What are some things you expect to see? We did get a little bit more John and Morgana. Magan, which is interesting I said that, because obviously Lena, played by Katie McGrath, played Morgana and Merlin. Regardless, I'm going on a tangent, like where they stay, because that's also another thing too, like the Mars situation, where we're going to get any more with that the season. Like I said, just let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.